I'm delighted to say Matt Holland is with us. Matt, good morning to you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Just about recovered, I think, from what happened last night. It was just heartbreaking. Felt so sorry for the lads. They put in a brilliant performance, and then to sort of lose it at the end like that was really cruel. So, yeah, just about recovering from it.
You said in commentary that you were kicking every ball with them. I think the whole country was on our couches last night, kind of like, particularly Bernardo Silva drops the shoulder, does another little feint, finds a little bit of space in the box, and then skies it over from 8 yards. We're like, this is going to be our night.
You felt that way, didn't you? Especially after, Gavin Bazunu making that fabulous save from the penalty spot as well, from Cristiano Ronaldo. You just felt that things might just be going our way. Things might just be turning for Stephen Kenny and the boys. But sadly, not to be. That man, Ronaldo, who's obviously a world-class player, one of the best that we've ever seen, just pops up with two wonderful headers. I mean, we can look back and think we should have done better, stop the cross, all those sorts of things. But, I mean, he's just an unbelievable talent, absolutely fantastic player, and two wonderful headers.
In terms of the quality of the performance that Ireland put in, particularly the midfielders, will you talk to us a little bit about what your assessment is now in the cold light of day? How did they do? What signs of progress are we seeing? Are we seeing enough progress in the Kenny era over the last while?
Well, I think the summer games, I thought, helped. I thought having a camp together, you could clearly see the benefit of that, I think, last night. I thought it was a terrific performance. I thought it had a bit of everything. It had the passion, it had the pride, it had the commitment, the blocks, all that sort of stuff. The organisation, I thought, was very good. Stephen had talked about not being there to defend for 90 minutes. We have to carry a threat. I thought the two wing-backs did that, particularly Seamus Coleman getting forward, I thought was outstanding. So there was an intelligence about the play. There was a bravery in terms of getting on the ball as well and keeping the ball when we won it back. Tactically, I thought it was great in terms of the pace up front and getting in behind the Portuguese defence. We'd have anticipated Portugal having a lot of the ball, which they did. But that automatically means that the fullbacks are going to push forward. There's going to be space, and Adam Eder and Aaron Connolly exploited that. Aaron Connolly a couple of times might have done better in terms of his decision making once he got into those positions, but it worked perfectly. We scored from a set piece, which we're always a threat from. So in terms of the game plan, in terms of the execution of it, in terms of where we're going, you feel as though there's a continued improvement in what we're trying to achieve. But ultimately, it's another game without a win.
Before the game, Matt, I think if you had to pick a problem area for Ireland, it would have been midfield. It turned out that Jamie McGrath, in his first competitive start for Ireland, is actually really up to it and put in an incredible performance last night, and Cullen as well deserves mention. Why did those two guys in particular manage to perform a lot better than we expected from the Ireland midfield?
Well, I think I think it helps having such an experienced back line as well. I think key to that is the information that you get from the centre backs as well. I think there was an element of not going chasing things that you couldn't win, and it was keeping themselves in a position where they could just stop the balls going into the front men. And a lot of that does come from behind. I mean, one of the best was Gary Breen, really, when I was playing for Ireland, was the information that you got from someone like that. Left shoulder, right shoulder, shuffle across 5 yards, just little information all the time, which helps you, and particularly against top-class players like Portugal have got, world-class players who just pop up in little spaces and make it really difficult for you to mark them. That information, I think, is key from behind. And also, that not going chasing things that you can't win and getting played around, because if you do that, you can make yourself look silly at times. So, I thought they did do it very, very well indeed. But it was a great team performance. As I say, it wasn't just the midfield. I thought the defence, where perhaps the most experience was in the team, they were superb, full of energy and running up top. The goalkeeper, a lot of people saying Kelleher should have played, but wow, a couple of nervy moments, I guess, from Gavin Bazunu, but you'd expect that. A 19-year-old made some big saves, though. So throughout the team, you're looking at it and thinking everyone to a man did a great job.
It's interesting what you say there about Gary Breen being the vocal guy of your team. It does seem that Shane Duffy definitely has responsibility for that in this team, and it wasn't just his I guess his lower level over the last season that Ireland suffered as a result of. It was also his lack of confidence, and maybe we didn't see the Shane Duffy who was like Gary Breen back then, commanding, being vocal, telling the midfielders and the wing backs where to go. I'm sure that also had a big factor on last night.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think you can see quite clearly how much he's grown, the confidence of being back in the Brighton team at the start of the season, scoring a goal as he did against Watford, and just that belief again coming back into his game. But he's an experienced player, and you go through tough times, unfortunately, through your career. It's how you come out of it the other side. And you mentioned the talking and the leadership, etc. John Egan's that type of character as well. He's a captain. He's he's someone who's got that responsibility at club level as well. So Seamus Coleman, another captain. You've got plenty of people there who have got good voices and big voices. So you felt like last night there was a really good mix. Sometimes maybe there's been too many younger players in the team, but last night you felt the mix was absolutely perfect.
It's interesting now that Ireland go into a totally different prospect of a game on Saturday where they're expected to win. Now, if we go back to the last game that Ireland were expected to win, Andorra, if you want to use the friendlies here, and Stephen Kenny did play a back four that night. Is there a chance that he changes it up for Saturday formation-wise, especially with O'Shea being out?
Difficult one, isn't it? Because a lot of his best performances have come in the games where he's perhaps not expecting too much, where the expectations are a little bit lower. I think Slovakia, Serbia, Portugal, the bigger nations, we've had better performances, if you like. Be interesting to see what he does decide to do. I think the biggest job he's got is trying to lift the players. That's the regardless of tactics and how he wants to set his team up, the biggest job he's got now is trying to lift morale, because they put so much into it. And you've got one or two players there who aren't playing at club level as well, who looked absolutely shattered come the end. So that's his biggest job. In terms of the tactics, I mean, it will be interesting to see which way he goes. I think it's a really difficult game now because of the circumstances, because of how we lost the game last night, to try and lift that morale again.
I know exactly what you're saying. Obviously, they're professionals, and Richard Dunn was in the Sky studio after you guys last night saying that he remembered the game against Holland where we were 2-0 up and drew 2-2, and they were all happy in the dressing room afterwards, and Roy Keane came in and ate them because he demanded that they win. I don't imagine they were eating the players last night for the manner in the defeat. You feel like this is, you hope, something that they can build on, because even John Egan in his post-match interview, there was a buzz there about what he had just been through. Like he was clearly disappointed, but at the same time there must be some level of excitement that we played really well, that the work that they did in that training camp is beginning to pay off, that they can now trust each other in a way that they just didn't know each other 18 months ago.
Yeah, I get all that, and it was, I think there will have been some. They'll look back today probably with some pride in the way they performed. It wouldn't have felt like that last night in the dressing room. Even a point, I think, would have felt like a disappointment, the way the game had panned out and the way we were doing, and ultimately kept them, although they had a lot of pressure in the second half, kept them at arm's length for the majority of it. Yes, the Bernardo Silva chance, and Jota had a good chance in the first half as well, but largely kept them to shooting from distance. And like I say, it was such a good performance. And today, in the cold light of day, they'll look back and think, yeah, we did all right. But at the same time, it's still, yes, we're building. Yes, we keep saying we're looking to the future. Yes, the performances are better. But ultimately, everything's about results, isn't it? And that's where they'll look back and think, if only, what might have been, etc. So, yes, there'll be a bit of pride, but at the same time, it's about getting results, and that starts obviously with the game on Saturday.
And from a psychological perspective, as a manager and a management team, what do they do to make sure that they take some positives from that, don't dwell too much on the negatives, and continue to have the confidence to try stuff and make mistakes, particularly in that first 20-25 minutes against a side who we know are going to come and play very deep and be absolutely delighted to try and score on the break?
Well, I think that's Stephen Kenny's nature. I think since he's come in, you've always felt that it's not for the now. You felt that it was for the future, and he's building a longer term vision. You don't always get that time. You don't always get the ability to do those things. You see it at club level, if results don't go your way, you're pretty much out of a job. But I've always felt that when Stephen came in, the changes that he's made, the blooding of younger players, and trying to change a philosophy and trying to change a style of play, you always felt it was for a longer term rather than the here and now. Ideally you'd get results and you would be, do better in the qualifying group, etc. But that hasn't materialised. So I've always felt he is planning for a longer term vision and a longer term future. So I don't think he'll change. I think that's his nature. I think that's the way he wants it to go about it, and his coaching staff are exactly the same as well. So nothing changes in terms of what he's trying to achieve, I don't think.
Would you give him a new contract and make sure that he sees this through to the end of the Euros?
Crikey, I mean, that's obviously other people's decisions and where they feel as though I guess the ultimate question is there progress? Are there signs that we're getting better? Well, I would say over the last sort of 2 or 3 games, I think we've seen evidence of it. I think we've seen, like I say, a group of younger players coming into the setup, a bit more confidence about the play, and so if you feel as though there's and it's not just always on the pitch, it's off the field and the setup of generally of the whole thing. So I guess that's the question that they have to ask themselves when dishing out the contracts. And I would argue that in the last couple of games, the last couple of camps, we're starting to see that progress.
I think that's possibly down to a little tweak from Stephen Kenny as well. It does seem that they're a little less gung-ho. Like, granted that Saturday is going to be the proof of that when they're up against a team like Azerbaijan, but if we're guessing from the friendlies and from the Portugal game, it does seem like maybe there's a little bit less of a carelessness about the tactics. Maybe carelessness is the wrong word.
Yeah, maybe. And also I think there's a recognition that you can't always play the style of football that you want to play. I think, even last night, getting caught out playing short for the penalty, you argue it was or it wasn't a penalty, but sometimes when there's pressure on the ball as high up the pitch as it is, you can't always do that. And I think even through the course of the game last night, we saw that managed better. Yeah. Gavin Bazunu might go long at times, try and hit Adam Ida and get the midfield up and try and join him. It wasn't always we've got to play out from the back. And I think there was a recognition of that. So tactically, you can't always play out from the back if teams are pushing high up the pitch. So I think they're learning curves really and things that Stephen has recognised. So, I think, as I say, tactically, I thought last night he got it absolutely spot on, and it was a cruel way to lose, to be honest.
I think one of the things that we haven't really spoken too much about this, but when Stephen Kenny got the gig, there was definitely a sense that it's a big step up for him. He hasn't managed in the Premier League, he hasn't managed in the Championship. His time in Scotland was relatively unsuccessful. Was he going to be able to put together a coaching ticket that would sustain the team into the long term? And then Anthony Barry arrived from Chelsea and he's still working with Tuchel. It's like, the team looks like it's really well organised. Keith Andrews understands exactly what it means to be a young Irish player struggling in the lower divisions who makes it later on in his career and becomes a leader for the team. Dean Kiley has 15, 20 years experience. So all that backroom turmoil that there was for that period of time, that's over. He's now a seasoned international manager who has had crisis after crisis after crisis because of COVID. And on the back of that, we've just put in our best performance with a team of kids. I think that's not a bad outcome. They've got to back it up against Azerbaijan. I 100% accept that. But it's hard not to be a little bit excited.
Absolutely. What I would say is I felt that this was a really defining week for him as well, because he kept talking about the summer and how things had gone well in the summer, the games against Hungary and Andorra, etc. And we felt there was signs of improvement, and I felt that this was a big week for him. 3 games coming as quick as they are, and he would have set a target, I'm sure, of points over these 3 matches. I think ultimately it probably would have been about 7 points. I would say if we had any chance of qualifying for the World Cup. And I think now it's 6. I think we have to, we have to sort of see that progress in terms of points on the board now as well. So the games against Azerbaijan and Serbia, I thought we were excellent in the away game. 6 points. I think that's what we're looking for now. Again, it's, you want to see them play well, you want to see the performances right, but you also want to see points on the board now.
Yeah, And I think everybody accepts that is the currency. When you are an international manager, you need to start getting results. But on the back of that performance last night, we can at least begin, I think, to see there is a defined plan. The plan is working, and there are young players coming through who are going to give us a little bit of strength and depth for when the next injury crisis happens. And they got important minutes and a huge experience. And I don't know if you've suffered defeats like that when you were playing with Ireland, Matt, but I presume they live with you forever, and you do learn from them.
Definitely. My first cap came in Macedonia, so it doesn't get much worse than that, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah, so it is a learning curve. It'll hurt. The players will hurt after last night. It will be, a massive disappointment to them because of what they've done in the game and how well they've played. Often you do learn more in defeat, and this tough period, which it has been a tough period. We can't argue. It's been a really difficult time for Stephen and the boys. Lots of things have gone against them, transpired against them, the COVID issues, etc. Bad refereeing decisions and all sorts of things have gone against them. It's how you respond, and characters and toughness comes from those tough times. And hopefully we'll see the benefit of that. Those young players who played in that game last night, I mean, there's no better experience really, and against some of the talent they played against, and they've done such a good job that hopefully that does stand them in good stead going forward.
How much did you harness that Macedonia heartbreak going into the following campaign, which was obviously a hugely successful one?
Massively. I mean, the disappointment in the dressing room after that game was probably as low as I've ever known it in any dressing room. It was absolute heartbreak. So the players then, I think, you felt that was a building process, putting together a squad that was going to be able to compete and qualify for tournaments. I felt that was at that point a bit of this, a building block in place, if you like. And sometimes it takes a disappointment to kick on for the next one. Ultimately now it's almost impossible, I think, to qualify for the World Cup in 2022 in Qatar. But looking forward, this period hopefully will be a springboard to better things.
All right, good stuff, Matt. Thanks a million for joining us this morning. Cheers.
Cheers, pleasure.